Wren Hollow, Virginia, was the kind of place that didn't make the news unless a fair got rained out or someone's prize hog escaped the pen again. Nestled in a fold of the Blue Ridge Mountains, the town was quiet, intimate, and predictable. That's why, when Eli Granger disappeared, it felt like something sacred had been broken. Eli was more than just the owner of Granger's general store. He was a fixture. Soft-spoken, dependable, and kind to a fault. He always remembered birthdays, delivered groceries to the elderly in bad weather, and let kids take a piece of candy even when they didn't have enough change. Everyone knew him, and everyone liked him. So, when he failed to open the store one misty Thursday morning in early October, people noticed. The sorry, closed sign hung crooked on the door. By noon, townsfolk were knocking, calling, texting. By that evening, with his old blue pickup still parked out back and his loyal golden retriever Gus pacing nervously behind the store, Sheriff Maureen Callahan was notified. She arrived at Eli's modest farmhouse on Sycamore Road. The front door was locked, but there were no signs of forced entry. Inside, a pot of half-full coffee sat cold on the counter. A pair of boots were neatly placed by the door. Gus had food and water, more than a day's worth, like someone had prepared to be gone. But Eli's wallet, phone, and laptop were missing. There were no signs of a struggle. It was as if Eli had simply erased himself. At first, it looked like a possible random act. Maybe he'd been abducted. But it didn't fit. Nothing had been stolen. There was no blood, no damage, no struggle. And the more Sheriff Callahan dug, the more it seemed like Eli had left on his own terms, or been coaxed into vanishing. The first real clue came from a gas station 20 miles away. Surveillance footage showed Eli 2 days before he vanished, filling his tank. He wasn't alone. A woman sat in the passenger seat, brunette, mid-30s, laughing easily. But no one in Wren Hollow recognized her. Eli had never married, never dated anyone publicly. People assumed he was simply a private man, maybe nursing old wounds. But records revealed he had once lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, for several years in his 20s. There, he'd been involved with a woman named Mae Linton, until she disappeared in 2009. Her case had gone cold. Eli had been questioned at the time but released without suspicion. He'd moved back to Wren Hollow not long after. Suddenly, the town's sweet shopkeeper was tangled in a mystery with roots far deeper than anyone had known. Things took a darker turn when an anonymous tip came into the sheriff's office. Check the woods behind Sycamore Hill. He buried more than his secrets there. Skeptical but thorough, Callahan sent a team out. Using cadaver dogs, they located human remains buried beneath a maple tree on a piece of land Eli's father once leased for hunting. The remains were old, at least a decade. Dental records confirmed what everyone feared: Mae Linton. Wren Hollow reeled. Whispers spread like fire. Had Eli killed her? Was the kind man they knew just a mask? But the evidence didn't quite fit. Mae's estimated time of death placed her death in late 2009. At that time, Eli had been on military deployment overseas, a fact confirmed by federal records. If he didn't kill Mae, who did? The answer surfaced in Eli's missing laptop, which was eventually discovered in a storage unit in Roanoke. Inside, investigators found a thread of emails and documents connecting Eli to someone named Rachel Dane. The messages started warm, even flirtatious, but gradually became darker, manipulative, jealous, controlling. One name kept appearing in the exchange: Annie. Annie had worked at Granger's general store briefly the previous spring. She'd come into town quiet and polite, said she was starting over, and no one thought twice about it. But the ID she'd used was fake. Annie was actually Rachel Dane, Mae Linton's cousin, and her past was filled with mental health holds, identity fraud, and a long history of sliding into the lives of vulnerable people before vanishing when things got complicated. When investigators pieced it together, a horrifying picture formed. Rachel and Mae had run off together in 2008, caught in a swirl of addiction and desperation. One night, after a heated argument, Mae died. Rachel never said how, only that it happened too fast. She buried Mae, fled, and disappeared for over a decade. Then she found Eli again. Whether out of guilt, fear, or obsession, she returned, under a false name, posing as someone new. Eli didn't recognize her at first, but the truth began to unravel. When he discovered what really happened to Mae, he threatened to go to the police. Rachel panicked, but instead of killing him, she crafted a new disappearance. She staged his vanishing, took his laptop, clothing, and personal items. She even wore a baseball cap and glasses to appear as Eli in surveillance footage at an ATM. She drove his truck, parked it in a remote area, and then walked away. She might have gotten away with it, too, if she hadn't brought Gus, Eli's retriever, to a shelter under his name. The form, with her forged signature, sealed her fate. She was arrested in Kentucky, living under yet another name, Jenna. During interrogation, Rachel veered between sobs, rants, and silence. She accused Eli of gaslighting her, of manipulating Mae. But her stories contradicted themselves. The physical evidence told a clearer tale. She was trying to erase Eli the way she had erased Mae. But Eli, it turned out, had been one step ahead. He had discovered the truth about Rachel weeks before his disappearance. Rather than go to the police immediately, he vanished intentionally, leaving behind just enough to bait her into exposing herself. The staged disappearance, the planted laptop, the bills paid in advance, it was all calculated. A trap. Months after Rachel's arrest, Eli reappeared in New Mexico, living under the name Elias Warren. He came forward to testify, nervous, thinner, a man forever changed. He stayed just long enough to make sure justice was served, then disappeared again, this time for good. Rachel Dane was convicted of second-degree murder and multiple counts of fraud and identity theft. She's serving a 30-year sentence. Eli sold the farmhouse, closed the general store, and left Wren Hollow behind. Last anyone heard, he was living in the Southwest, hiking trails with Gus. Some still believe he was part of it. Others say he's a victim who outsmarted the devil. But everyone in Wren Hollow agrees on one thing. You never really know the person next door.